Attention, viewers, for the more delicate among you, a warning that today we will be talking about something quite visceral and quite intense. If you are forced to click away, please note that you have your fellow viewers to blame, for they will not stop asking, driving me mad. Coffin birth is the Loch Ness monster of death phenomenon, a rarely seen shadowy concept that some will say is not even true, but people remain fascinated. I found a reference to coffin birth all the way back in 1912 in a textbook of obstetrics. As a fun exercise, please try to say textbook of obstetrics 5 times fast.
Textbook of obstetrics, textbook of obstetrics, textbook of obstetrics.
Nope, can't do it. I wasn't even sure that I wanted to do an episode on this, but we don't shy away from the hard conversations, now do we? By forensic definition, a coffin birth is what can happen 48 to 72 hours after the death of a pregnant woman. As the gas in her abdomen builds up due to decomposition, the pressure rises to the point that it presses on the uterus so intensely that the unborn fetus is expelled or partly expelled from the mother's body. The technical name for coffin birth isn't coffin birth, it's postmortem fetal extrusion. Extrusion meaning the act of pushing or thrusting out, which I did not know. How this is construed with the general public, if they even come across it, is, dude, did you know a corpse can give birth? Crazy! Although obviously, if the mother has been deceased long enough for decomposition to occur, the fetus will also be deceased when it's expelled. It's not like a corpse, and the corpse is beautiful bouncing baby boy, congrats! No, young man on the internet. It's not so much that coffin birth hasn't happened or doesn't happen, as it may be over-reported when there is another biological explanation. For example, Laci Peterson was murdered by her husband Scott and left in the San Francisco Bay when she was 8 months pregnant. Since Laci's body and the body of the male fetus were found separately, it was widely reported at the time that it had been a coffin birth, when in fact medical examiners discovered that Laci's stomach had ruptured due to decomposition, causing her internal organs, including the fetus, to be washed out into the bay. I told you this was rough. Sorry, moms. There are multiple examples of coffin birth through history. Schenck mentions that of a woman dying at 5 p.m., a child having 2 front teeth was born at 3 a.m. Are babies usually born with teeth? I'm sure that's maybe a thing that happens, but a baby with 2 front teeth sounds like the creepiest story of them all.
Mother!
But we know better than to look at a record from 400 years ago and say,
Yep, that totally and completely happened, just exactly as this record from 1633 said it did.
It can be even more complicated in bioarchaeology. You can excavate a grave and find a skeletal woman and a skeletal child, but was that a case where both mother and child died in childbirth and were buried together, or was the fetus expelled post-mortem? In an Anglo-Saxon grave from the early Middle Ages, they found an infant skeleton lying across the pelvis of the mother. This might normally have been attributed to a coffin birth, but the archaeologists in this case argued, first of all, the head was not in the direction it should be facing, with the head of the fetus opposite the head of the mother. Second, this was a body buried directly in the dirt. The packed-in dirt would not allow a fetus to expel. That's why you need the coffin in coffin birth. It needs space to happen. Due to modern chemical preservation, coffin birth is rarer than ever before. But in 2005, the body of a female heroin addict was discovered in an apartment in Hamburg, Germany. She was 8 months pregnant when she died, and both the head and half the chest were found coming out of the birth canal. Toxicology showed no signs of a live birth having happened, but heroin may have been involved in the contractions of the uterus that expelled the baby. One of the more tragic situations you can conceive of, but it did give modern forensics a chance to really see what postmortem fetal extrusion looks and behaves like. I'll link the case study below. That's it! You bravely survived postmortem fetal extrusion. And in case you were wondering, yes, There is a metal band named Coffin Birth. 2, actually, that I could find. Surprise! Surprise. Ask a Mortician is brought to you with support from People's Memorial Association and the Co-op Funeral Home, and donations from viewers like you.
Mother!